Good morning. It is Monday, May 4th. Thank you for joining our second UI virtual town hall. I'm Rebecca, and I will be kicking off our call/online town hall this morning. You have a couple of options to participate, which I'll go over in a minute, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff. We'll go over a couple of slides, give you an update on the state of unemployment in Colorado, review a few items like tips for a successful claim filing, and then we'll open it up to your questions. Before we begin, you have a couple of ways to participate in today's town hall. We have an online poll that you can also join by phone that's based on the top questions that we're seeing come into our customer service center. If you'd like information about application process and timeline, select 1 or press 1 on your phone. If you'd like information about W-2 and 1099 income questions, select 2 or press 2 on your phone. If you'd like information about returning to work and job refusal, select 3 or press 3 on your phone. If you'd like benefit payment information, press 4 on your phone or select 4 online. The opportunities to participate with your questions are either by phone or online chatted in. We have staff supporting our town hall this morning by screening your questions and providing real-time responses. Given the number of participants, we won't be able to get to everybody's question, but hopefully the content through the slide presentation and through today's call will get information that you will find useful and informative. The call will last about an hour. About halfway through, we'll stop and check in on the poll submissions, and then we'll resume to taking your real-time questions. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As Rebecca indicated, I'm just going to go through a short presentation that's going to cover some general information that you might find useful, and then we'll maneuver into your questions. So as an overview of today's agenda, we're going to talk about the status of unemployment benefits in Colorado. We're going to give you an update about on the CARES Act, which covers legislation that put in place pandemic unemployment assistance, or sometimes called PUA or PUA, and the application for those benefits. We're going to talk about pandemic unemployment compensation. That's commonly known as the additional $600 that's being placed on top of benefits per week. We're going to get into some frequently asked questions. We're going to provide some tips on filing a successful claim, and then we'll maneuver to your questions. So to start, just a quick overview of the status of unemployment benefits. There's been a great deal of activity and demand, of course, understandably so, since March 15th. My team is working extremely hard at processing those claims. To date, we've processed more than 350,000 claims and paid out more than $500 million in benefits to citizens that need those supports. Happy to say that we've also began taking pandemic unemployment assistance, or PUA, claims starting on April 20th, and we're actively paying benefits on those claims as well. To help with the demand and questions coming into our division, we added a second call center dedicated specifically for pandemic unemployment assistance claims, and that began on April 20th as well. Also on April 20th, we began paying pandemic unemployment compensation. Again, that's the $600, and we began paying that for all benefit types. So that's on top of the pandemic unemployment assistance as well as regular unemployment. We recently added a file a claim callback form to the website. We understand that there's still a great deal of demand to speak to our agents. We're working extremely hard to get to those questions. We've more than tripled our call center capacity, but still demand outweighs what we're able to provide. And so we're trying to increase the functionality to get answers on the website as well. And that included adding a file a claim callback form to the website. We also added a chat bot functionality to the website as well, which is a tool that you can leverage if you're having trouble. There's a great deal of content on the website. We recognize it can be confusing, and it's challenging to absorb it all. It's a lot of information. We've tried to streamline it and make it as comprehensible as possible. But if you're having challenges absorbing or navigating the website, you can use the chat bot functionality to type in questions to that chat bot, and it will go through the material on the website and provide answers to you via a chat functionality. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the CARES Act and some items relative to pandemic unemployment assistance, or PUA. So what is it? It's new federal benefits passed by Congress. Who is it for? Essentially, it's for folks who don't typically qualify for UI, unemployment assistance, so gig workers, self-employed, or even those that might have exhausted regular UI benefits, and many categories of folks that are particularly impacted by COVID-19 and can't work due to COVID-19. How do you file? You go to coloradoui.gov and click on File a PUA Claim. When you go to do that, please make sure that you have your 2018 or 2019 tax returns available. Be sure to create a username and a password. When you go in, accept the Experian identity verification. If you do not do so, your claim may be delayed. And I want to pause here and note that this is this is the methodology we put in place to ensure that there's no fraud or identity theft. So this is not a credit check. This is simply a way to identify that you are who you say you are and that you're filing for yourself. On PUA claims, you're going to be requesting payment weekly online, and you do not need a PIN. This is different from regular UI, so I'll take a moment to explain that. If you're on regular unemployment insurance benefits, not PUA benefits, you will need a PIN in order to request your payments, and that's done biweekly. That's also different from the PUA claims. And so a common question we've had that we've addressed, but I want to go over it again, is what happens if I do not get my PIN? In that case, what you're going to want to do is first give it some time. Once you go in and file your application, you may not immediately get your PIN. We are emailing those out. They typically come through U.S. mail, but as a means to expedite the process, we are going to be emailing those out for the foreseeable future. If you do not get your PIN in a couple business days, give it a few more days. Rule of thumb is if you don't have your PIN about 3 days before you're supposed to be going in and requesting payment, then please go onto our website, coloradoui.gov, and you can navigate the website to an area that says Request a New PIN. If you fill that out, we will either email you a new PIN or we will mail it to you. It's important to note that when you fill out that form, please use the email address that you put in when you put in your first application for unemployment insurance benefits. If those email addresses do not match, then we're going to have to default to mailing it to you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about pandemic unemployment compensation based upon a number of questions that we've got. So what is it? It's new federal benefits passed by Congress. And what it does is it provides additional $600 a week on top of your regular UI benefit amount or your PUA benefit amount. So who? Basically, anyone that's receiving benefits will get this additional $600 per week through July 25th. How? No action is needed by the claimant. This will automatically be added to your weekly benefit amount. So for those of you with an active claim, you should be seeing this extra money now. Bear in mind, taxes will be taken out. So it may not be presenting as exactly $600. Next, I want to get to a few frequently asked questions. How long will it take to see my first benefit payment after I apply? So when you go in and you apply, we'll do a determination to verify that you're eligible for the benefits, and then you'll get some communication about what your first eligible week is for those benefits. Then you'll get a prompt as to when you can go in and request benefit payments. Bear in mind, the request window will follow from your first eligible week. So anytime you're going in to request benefits, it's going to be looking back on the weeks in which you were eligible for benefits and requesting payments for those weeks. In regular UI, that will happen twice monthly, every other Sunday basically. Every other Sunday is when it would start. For PUA benefits, that'll be a weekly process. Another frequently asked question is, I'm a gig worker with both W-2 and 1099 income. How do I file? That's a great question. So federal legislation requires that if you have two sources of income, one being W-2 earnings or traditional employee earnings, as well as 1099 independent contractor earnings, if you have earned more than $2,500 in what's called the base period, which is approximately the last 18 months. If you've earned more than $2,500 as a W-2 employee, you must first exhaust those benefits. So what you'll do is you go into our MyUI system and apply for benefits for regular unemployment insurance benefits based upon those W-2 earnings. Only after you've exhausted those benefits and those earnings based upon the benefits based upon those earnings, only then can you apply for pandemic unemployment assistance. Another question that's coming up now that we're maneuvering a little bit more to opening up the economy. My employer wants me to return to work, but I don't feel safe. Can I stay on unemployment? That's also a great question. And so I want to make sure that I try to explain this as best as possible. The following only pertains to traditional employees. This doesn't pertain necessarily to self-employed or gig workers. But if you're a traditional employee and your worker wants you to come back to the office, what it's going to do is it's going to require our division to analyze whether it's essentially safe for you to return to the office. And so you don't need to immediately return if you're not feeling safe. What it will do, again, it'll prompt an analysis by our division. And what we'll look at, the general factors that we'll look at is what are the conditions of the job? Are the conditions adhering generally to the protocols set in place by the Safer at Home order, set in place by Governor Polis? Or in addition to that, are they following the protocols that your county officials may have set in place that may be stricter than the Safer at Home order? So are there protocols in place for social distancing, for wearing masks? In other words, are the employees set in a position where they can operate safely in the work environment? Also, another consideration is, are you part of a more vulnerable population, or do you live with someone that's part of a more vulnerable population? So in essence, it's a case-by-case analysis to determine whether the conditions are appropriate for someone to return to work. In the cases for more vulnerable populations, at this particular time, there may be no condition upon which it's safe to return back to work. So it's not a black and white answer, but for the time being, you can continue to get benefits if your employer calls you back to work, but you don't feel comfortable. And then again, that will prompt an analysis to determine whether those benefits will continue. Another question, once I have filed and been deemed eligible, how do I get my benefits? How do I get my benefits payment system? So what you're going to need to do is go into the certification and payment online system, and in the window time frame that's been provided you by the department, and request payments. And what you're going to be doing is going in and certifying whether you've had any income over the past week or 2 weeks, depending upon which system you're in. You're also going to be reporting on whether you've gotten any job offers. Basically attesting that you're still out of work, and that other than the COVID-19, you are generally available for work. Another question, why are there two separate online systems for unemployment? How do I know which one to use? That's a great question as well. So what we did to get our pandemic unemployment assistance benefits in place as quickly as possible, because we knew the demand out in the communities was quite large, we actually leveraged a separate system to stand up our pandemic unemployment assistance benefits program. So for regular unemployment insurance, you're going to be using what's called the MyUI system. It should be clearly demarked on the website as to which application you should be going in to file in. If you're a gig worker or an independent contractor, you're going to be going into the other system for pandemic unemployment assistance. And again, that should be clearly denoted on our website. Now, the two systems, it should be mentioned, the two systems do talk to one another. So if you go into our Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Benefits Program and you go to file a claim, it's actually going to talk to the other system to see if in fact you had any W-2 earnings that might exceed $2,500, in which case you might be redirected to the MyUI system. It's also going to check to see if you have an active claim in the MyUI system, the regular benefits. So that also might prompt you to go back to the other system. So lastly, I'll end on tips for filing a successful claim, and then we'll maneuver to your questions. First, check the accuracy of your information before you submit. Things like name, address, and key dates. If you get those wrong, they will require speaking with an agent. So please take your time when filling out the application. You can save as you go. Make sure that all the information is accurate and correct before you hit submit. Please provide an email address, and if prompted, select into electronic correspondence. We want to get you your benefits as quickly as possible. Electronic correspondence, providing an email address, those are the tips that are going to get you the quickest access and allow for the greatest ease in communicating back and forth and expedite your benefit claim. Also, please have your tax documents ready to upload. You may be prompted for your tax documents, and it's going to be beneficial if you can upload them right when you file. Also, please have a valid Colorado identification ready. Now, you're not going to need to upload that, but you are going to need to type in the information. Driver's license is going to be best, or any state ID provided by the Department of Motor Vehicles. For pandemic unemployment or PUA claims, please accept the Experian identity verification. Otherwise, your claim may be delayed. Again, this is to ensure that there's no fraudulent activity going on and to prevent identity theft. So it's imperative that we check your identity, and if you fail to do that, it's going to take a little bit longer to process your claim. You might want to check your spam folders for emails from us. Sometimes they're routed inadvertently to spam, and you're going to have to go into your settings and allow for communication from the division to go to your regular inbox. When prompted to do so, please respond to all emails from the division. It should be noted that not all communications will require a response, but if a response is required, please do so timely. And when you go in weekly or biweekly, report all offers to return to work and any earnings during your regular weekly or biweekly certification. So we hope that you found that to be helpful. And now we're going to go to the questions, and we'll maneuver between the online questions that have been submitted, as well as we'll be taking some phone calls. And so I've got Jeffrey, I've got Rebecca, and I've got Brandon here to help me with some of these questions. So let me jump right into it. We've got Mike, who writes, can 1099s get unemployment? Who can help answer that question? Can 1099 folks get unemployment? Brandon, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Hi, Mike. For 1099 employees, what you would want to be looking at is filing a pandemic unemployment assistance claim. So you could go to our coloradoui.gov site and file a PUA claim on the left-hand side, and we would check into your eligibility. This is what Jeff was talking about earlier, where you would need to provide a copy of your 1040 or your tax forms for the last year so we can verify your information. So yes, 1099s can under the PUA program.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Let's move down to Jordan here. Jordan writes, I exhausted my regular unemployment benefits and recently filed for PUA. Originally, I did not become unemployed as a result of the pandemic, but I'm currently unable to find work as a result of the pandemic. Will I be approved for PUA? Jeffrey, can you help us out with this question?
Sure. So if you exhausted your regular unemployment benefits and you filed for the PUA application and went in, even if you were originally unemployed due to a different reason, once those benefits have been exhausted and you're unable to find new employment as a direct result of the pandemic, then you would be potentially eligible for the PUA benefits while the economy is opening back up and you're seeking work. So you still have to maintain your availability to accept work if it's provided, but yes, in the interim, if you've exhausted regular UI benefits or you're extended out on those. Any exhaustion of benefits that rolls over onto our PUA application, that applies in this scenario with the pandemic and the COVID response.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, here's another one for you. Jamaica writes, how do we get the extended 13 weeks of benefits if we've exhausted plus the $600? Can you take that one too?
Sure, Jamaica. So right now we are using, and this pertains to the previous question as well, we're using that PUA application to identify those of you out there that have exhausted your regular unemployment so that we can continue paying you. So that 13-week extension right now is being handled through that pandemic unemployment assistance application. So once you've exhausted, you can file over there, and you will continue receiving the benefits just paid out through the different systems. So it is a separate application process. You need to go through and file for the pandemic unemployment assistance, but because you're still out of work due to the pandemic, you would still qualify through there.
Jeff, it's Rebecca. Can I interrupt just with a quick few reminders here? We're about halfway through the call.
Please.
To ask a question, hit *3. And let's go ahead and just repeat the poll for everyone and the 4 questions on content you're interested in. So reminder to ask a question, press *3. Our polling questions today, if you'd like information on application process and timelines, option 1. If you'd like information on W-2 and 1099 income, option 2. Returning to work and job refusals, option 3. Benefit payment information, option 4. Again, to ask a question, *3.
Great, thank you. All right, let's move to Rebecca. Rebecca writes, I exhausted my unemployment in 2019 and have a single W-2 for 2019 of $2,600. Should I apply for regular UI or PUA? Let's see, Elizabeth, can you help us out with that one?
Yes, absolutely. So because, Rebecca, since you earned over that $2,500 during that 2019 timeframe, you would be eligible for regular unemployment insurance. And then with filling out that application, it would ask you to provide employment information for that employer that you were a W-2 employee during 2019. So that would be regular unemployment insurance.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. All right, John P. writes, I don't know if my application is complete. Brandon, can you help us out? When does someone know if their application in either system is complete?
And I believe you said John asked that question. If you've completed your application, at the very end, you would get a confirmation code. In the MyUI system, it gives you about a 9-digit code to tell you that your claim has been complete. And if it's a PUA claim in the MyUI Plus system, you would get it's like a big green box that says it's complete. Then you could log into your system the next day under the PUA application and see back weeks to file would be a good information that you were complete, and your claim would also say active.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Brandon. Here's an interesting one from Caleb. See if we can help with this. I was furloughed from my job as a server 3/16/20. I filed for unemployment. I got my PIN, and I have full access to my account on MyUI. It says exhausted and is all red. So can somebody, Jeffrey, maybe you can help me out with this one. Can you help explain what exhausted might mean for a claimant and what that means relative to their benefits and what they might be looking at for next steps?
Sure, I can do that. And Caleb, if you filed for unemployment, you got your PIN, you have access to the account. If the status is exhausted, that normally means that all the benefits that are available to you under that program have been paid out. And so if this was on a regular unemployment insurance claim and you're showing a exhausted status, that means the benefits available through regular unemployment insurance have been paid. And at that point, you would want to go over and file a pandemic unemployment assistance claim to pick up where you left off. And when you do that, there's some instructions on there that say, in this scenario, when you are requesting a date for when that claim should be active, that you do that with the Sunday after the week in which your last benefits had been exhausted from the system. In most cases, that's going to be the date after, usually you'll get a date after your claim expires if it expires completely, but if it's exhausted and you've just recently exhausted, put the Sunday date after that exhausted date in order to get paid.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Let's move to a live call. I've got Robert from Highlands Ranch. Let's see if I can get Robert on.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Robert, you're on. What's your question?
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, my question is, it's a little bit, I have like 4 or 5 rocks and hard places. I moved to Colorado in early May of 2019, and for the year, like 90% of my income was 1099, and I earned about $900 in W-2. I filed a state tax return for 2019 already. First off, which do I qualify, if anything, for the state?
Okay. Elizabeth, can you help Robert out on this?
Yes, absolutely, Robert. So your $900 in W-2 wages, they do not qualify you for a regular unemployment assistance claim, but you would qualify for pandemic unemployment assistance. So you will want to file a pandemic unemployment assistance claim. And then when you complete the information on your wages, you would just include what was listed on your 1040, which would include your 1099 and your W-2 total wages. So you qualify for pandemic.
Okay, so total wages, 1040 total, you're saying?
Yes, when you go through the application, we'll guide you on what to enter in for your wages. As long as you have your 1040 form with you, you should be able to complete that.
Okay, great. Last question. So I just heard on the presentation about state ID. I haven't been able to get a driver's license, not my fault, but so is that going to impinge my ability to file a claim? Do I need can I use any kind of like utility bill for identification, or what's going to happen? I should get to that point of the procedure.
So I'll take that one, Jeff. When you fill out the application, you'll be prompted by Experian to validate your identity, and basically we're validating your social security number. And if you go through that process and receive validation, then that would be sufficient enough. If for some reason you failed that process, then we would look at investigating your identity, and that's where we would need potentially additional proof to be uploaded to your claim. But if you successfully pass that Experian check, then that would not be a problem.
Okay, great. So lastly, will it ask me for my 2019 Colorado state return or my federal?
It's going to be federal.
Federal, okay. And the system will be able to differentiate, like obviously I had some income before I moved to Colorado in W-2 versus the Colorado component, or not? That's my confusion here.
It's going to be based on your total W-2 wages. So if your total W-2 wages are more than $2,500 for 2019, then you would qualify for regular unemployment. If it's $900, as you indicated before, then you would qualify for pandemic.
Well, right. So just to be clear, before I qualified over 2,500, but only 900 was once I moved to Colorado. So before I moved, I incurred probably at least 3,000, maybe 4,000 in W-2 wages.
Okay, I understand now. So we will actually need to file a
great.
combined between the two states. So we'll need to leverage the wages you made from that other state in addition to your Colorado wages.
Okay. And so is that a pandemic or?
Yeah, you'll want to file the
Pardon
regular. I apologize. I thought you only had $900. So since you have more than $2,500 in covered employment, even if it's through multiple states, we can combine all those wages and bring them to Colorado to qualify you for a Colorado regular unemployment claim.
Got it.
Rob,
Okay,
we hope that's helpful. We're going to move on. Thank you for your call.
Sure, thank you. Okay.
All right, we're going to move to another phone call here from Erin. She's in Aurora. Let me bring you on live here, Erin. Can you hear us okay, Erin?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Great. What's your question today?
So my question is, I am a gig worker, and when I first did the PUA application, I incorrectly filled out my first week of unemployment, which was 3/15, and I have the document ID filed form incorrectly, but I don't know how to go back and submit this form correctly. I have a print off, and it's asking me, okay, was this work full-time, part-time? Who was the employer that offered it? Well, it never happened, so I need to file it the same way that I've filed the weeks following. But again, I don't know how to go back and correct this.
Okay. So Brandon, maybe you can help Erin out a little bit here in terms of her next steps.
Yeah, so Erin, it sounded like you said that you were offered a job that you actually didn't receive a job offer, correct?
Correct.
All right. And when you filled it out, it asked you all the questions and you submitted all the questions, but this is something that never came to fruition or something you were never really just offered, so you just made a simple mistake.
Yeah, because it was the first week of eligibility and it was kind of confusing, so I called my accountant and she helped me follow proper steps for the next weeks. But the first week I goofed on.
Gotcha. Erin, I will tell you, first off, you don't have to worry too much about it. We will not hold your payment until we look at this. And even though you messed up, the issue will sit out there. And as Jeff said earlier, we've had thousands and thousands of claims filed, so we're working these issues one at a time. And when we get to it, we would go ahead and send you some custom fact-finding asking you more about it. And at that time, you could respond back to us saying that it was a simple mistake, and we would go ahead and clear it off for you.
Okay,
so at this point, you've done...
Via email?
Yeah, it would. You would get an email from, it's like MyUI, CO MyUI alerts, and it would just say you have something to respond to. You would log into your MyUI Plus account and just say it was an error at that point.
Okay. I have not received that email, so I just received an email saying, fill out this information, fill it out. And I'm like, well, this isn't the correct information. I don't know how to fill that out. So. Yeah,
Erin, I'll tell you, we have thousands and tens of thousands of issues we're getting to, and we're trying to work through them as fast as we can. So you could get it soon. It might be a little bit of time till you get it, unfortunately, but we will get to it, but we will not withhold payment from you at this point.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
no
Erin.
problem. You have a good day.
You too.
Okay, let's move to Shannon from Denver. Shannon, are you there?
I am, thank you.
What's your question today?
So, yes, it's a two-part question. First, I am self-employed, and I was prompted to file for regular unemployment, given that I have received regular wages since January 2019. So it would be helpful for a quick explanation as to how those claims are being treated when I voluntarily left my last position to focus on my business full-time. I would assume that type of claim would typically be denied, but if you could speak to that. And second, because I expected to not qualify for regular unemployment, I did not file as early as I would have had I known I would have to or be prompted to. So are claims ever backdated, even a couple of weeks, when you filed at that, just because I filed later than I would have otherwise?
Yeah, so that one's might require some special processing. Jeffrey, can you talk to Shannon about her claim?
Sure thing. So Shannon, I think you had a couple of questions in the, one of them was regarding, if you had regular employment in 2019 and you left that employment to focus on your self-employment business, then just because of the way that the unemployment insurance laws are written federally, if you have any potential for regular unemployment insurance within that period of time that we're looking at on which to base a benefit amount, which would be 2019, then you would have to file the regular unemployment insurance claim first before we'd be able to look at any pandemic unemployment insurance. So you would need to file that through our regular unemployment insurance process. Now, in your case, since you are looking at the potential for backdating, you would probably need to unfortunately contact our customer service center in order to request that back date. What was the period of time you were attempting to file, or when were you planning on filing initially?
Well, I filed on 4/21, so making me eligible, I guess, for this first week. I just filled out the forms yesterday, but technically I haven't held a job since January, so I could have been filed earlier and been eligible for that additional $600 starting, I think, on March 29th. So basically there were weeks in which I didn't apply because I didn't know to apply.
Okay. So, yeah, you would need to contact our customer service center in order to request a back date if you're looking to have filed on previous weeks, just with the misunderstanding of what you qualified for and whether or not you'd be eligible. So you can call into our call center. I know that our number's on our website. And then if you have trouble getting through, I know Jeff had spoken earlier about they're looking at processes for getting callback forms if you're unable to get into the
I've been trying to call every day for a couple of hours out of the day. I try to pop on. So I was curious if there was going to be a chat function that allowed you to chat in your questions, or it sounds like the callback is what they're working on right now. Is there a place where you can put notes in your own claim since I've started a claim?
So Shannon, generally we're going to get back to you on your claim, but Jeffrey, can you answer the question about notes real quick?
On the regular unemployment insurance MyUI claimant website that we have out there, I don't know that there's a spot to put notes about your claim, unfortunately.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you for all your help.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck, Shannon. Okay, I'm going to move to an online question that's been submitted here. Katrina writes, I requested payment, says I failed to accept a job. I am furloughed. So I answered that way because I'm not looking for work as I'm going back to my job in July. It's just going to hold up my payments. So Brandon, do you want to talk a little bit about furloughed employees and job attachments and generally talk about the guidelines relative to job attachments and furloughed employees as it relates to COVID-19?
Yeah, if you're a furloughed employee due to COVID-19, you can't get to your place of employment, you would be considered job attached, meaning that you do not have to search for work because you have a job that you'll be returning to within the next 16 weeks. So your responsibility would be you filed your claim, you need to claim your weeks, and then when you go back to work, you don't need to contact us in any way. You simply need to stop filing for payment through Cubline. But you sounds like you are eligible for payment, and just file through Cubline and you would be fine.
Great. Thank you, Brandon, for that. Let's see here. Let's go to a phone call. And I'm going to go to Sarah in Denver. She's saying she's having some trouble with her Social Security number. So Sarah, can you tell us what's going on with your claim?
It's not the claim. I was trying to be compliant with registering for ConnectingColorado. And I've been registered on that site before, and it will not take my login. It will not accept my Social Security number or my username, and there's no one to call, no one answering at the workforce offices to get it fixed.
Okay, so this is specifically a question about ConnectingColorado rather than the UI application itself, correct?
Right. But now with the last response, I am job attached. So do I need to actually register?
So yes, the requirement is you still need to register with ConnectingColorado. So that is absolutely a process that you need to adhere to. I know that our workforce centers are mostly moving, or have completely moved to virtual services now. So do you know which workforce center is the closest one to your residence?
Yes.
Okay. So I believe that you can go online through that city or county's website, and I believe you can either leave them a voicemail, you can,
No, I've tried to call them.
Okay, I believe you can also leave them an email with your question and explain your challenges relative to Connecting Colorado.
Do you have any reference to the email that they might answer? Because I've looked for that.
I'm sorry, I don't right now, but I do believe that on our centralized website for Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, we have all of the contact areas for each of the regional workforce centers, and that information should be up to date. So if you've had trouble accessing it through your county, you can also navigate to our website as well. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, good luck. Thanks, Sarah. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. It says so generally Ken writes, trying to file for unemployment due to Corona. So Jeffrey, do you want to talk a little bit about pandemic unemployment assistance and how the eligibility criteria have been broadened by Congress to specifically deal with a lot of the COVID-19 scenarios? Can you get into that a little bit?
Sure, I can do that. So if you are trying to file unemployment insurance due to the coronavirus, there are a number of different factors that go into requesting, applying, getting paid, etc. So normally, when you would, the first thing you need to look at is what your employment status was. If you are a regular employee that receives, you have a W-2 on file and you had regular wages through 2019. If that's the case, you would file a regular unemployment insurance claim with us. And if you were a 1099 worker, had no W-2 employment or less than $2,500 of employment in 2019, and you are currently not working or unable to work or only partially employed due to the pandemic, either through a number of different factors, including a loss of business due to the pandemic, having a diagnosis, having somebody in your household that has a COVID-19 diagnosis, becoming the head of household due to a spouse that may have passed away due to the pandemic. There's a number of different reasons that are all very specific and pandemic related. If you are in that scenario and you're a gig worker or you're self-employed, have less than $2,500 of W-2 employment in 2019, then you would file a pandemic unemployment assistance program. In both cases, the government has expanded availability of benefits for claimants in general. So normally with unemployment insurance, if you separate from a job through no fault of your own, you have a weekly requirement of making sure that you're available for work, you're able to seek work, and you're actively seeking work. Some of those have changed a little bit due to the pandemic. So right now, Jeff had mentioned we are job attaching some folks. If you're away from your job, if you can't get back to work, your job hasn't opened up, you're under a stay-at-home order, and you cannot return to work, you aren't required to seek other work. So that's one of the provisions that's changed because we're expecting you to return back to your normal job or your normal gig work once the pandemic has passed. And then other options that are out there are there are some changes for gig workers to allow for this pandemic unemployment assistance in the interim for those folks that aren't normally eligible for regular unemployment insurance. So hopefully it's pretty broad. We have a lot of the information on the FAQs site on our website, which is coloradoui.gov. And I would encourage you to go there, take a look at those FAQs. It explains the difference between the regular unemployment insurance and the unemployment insurance that's available through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And it will kind of walk you through the different scenarios and which one you should apply for. So I'd encourage you to start there, kind of go through your own triage process where you answer some of the questions and see which applies to you and follow the prompts to file the correct type of unemployment assistance.
All right, great. Good job, Jeffrey. Thank you. Let's move back to the phones here. I've got Eric from Thornton. He's got a good question about partial unemployment. Eric, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Hi, Eric. What's your question?
So I'm currently on the regular UI benefits along with the additional $600 a month in PUC. And I'm an attached employee. My employer just recently rehired me at 75% my normal pay. So my question is kind of two-part in that, how does Colorado define partial unemployment, knowing that, PUC eligibility PUC is also still available for those folks who are partially unemployed. And then secondarily, as I am rehired, how does my weekly requesting for payment, how do I update my account online with you all to reflect that new hiring?
All really good questions. Brandon, can you help Eric out?
Yeah, sure, Eric. So first off, Eric, how does Colorado define partial unemployment? So what we really do is we define full-time unemployment being as 32 hours or more in the state of Colorado. So you said that you were called back at 75% of your normal pay or normal hours. I'm sorry.
Both, because it's really
Makes sense.
they're restricting us to 30 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're at 30 hours a week. So based
Correct.
on that, you could potentially be eligible for benefits. The other thing that we have to look at is your weekly benefit amount on your unemployment claim. If you earn a greater amount than your weekly benefit amount in those 30 hours, unfortunately, you wouldn't be eligible for any regular unemployment. And if you're not eligible for any regular payment, you're also ineligible for the extra $600 on FPUC, unfortunately.
Okay, because for me, I'd be going back making, getting less money than I'm getting right now. So with the combined PUC and UI benefits. So. Yeah, and we understand, and it's kind of a catch-all. A lot of people are running into that. If you've seen, there's a lot of news stories about people are earning more right now. But the state requirement says if you're earning more than your weekly benefit amount, unfortunately, you're just not eligible in the state of Colorado for any benefits at that point. Okay.
So, Brandon, can you tell us a
secondarily,
little bit about how Eric would report those earnings when he goes in to certify?
Yeah, when you file your weekly filing, there is a question whether you do it online or over the phone of, did you work this week, yes or no, and then it asks you to enter the number of hours and earnings you earned for that week. So there may be a week so say if you work 30 hours one week, but maybe 1 week they only pull you in for 20 hours and you earn less, you could be denied for 1 week and then eligible for the next week, depending on how that works out for you. And then how long do I continue to request payment? You can continue to request payment for a period of time. If you end up going back to work for 4 weeks and being disqualified for payments, so you go to work for 4 weeks and you earned over your weekly benefit amount for 4 straight weeks, your claim would actually close down because it would consider you fully employed. But if something changed, you could reopen it online and continue to request payment kind of indefinitely. But at 4 weeks, it might close down if you continue to be over that weekly benefit amount. I see. Okay.
Okay. I hope that's been helpful, Eric. Good luck, okay?
Thank you. Yes.
All right, let's move to another online question. Elizabeth, I think you'll be good to answer this one. We've got Michelle from Loveland. Michelle, are you on with us?
Yeah.
Michelle, you there?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Try one more time, Michelle. Your connection's a little bit off.
Okay, let me try something. Hold on.
Michelle, you there?
I'm here.
Okay. What's your question, Michelle? How can we help you?
So I have more than 2,500 in W-2 earnings because I have a part-time job of 24 hours a week. But I also am a gig worker, so I work part-time W-2 and part-time 1099, and I lost most of my gig work. So I was wondering if I qualify for unemployment in either scenario, because I do have more than 2,500 in W-2s, but then when I go to the pandemic side, it doesn't seem like I qualify over there because it sent me over back to the UI site.
Okay.
So my basic question is, I work part-time W-2, I lost most of my gig work, so I'm left with part-time unemployment, and I don't think my gig work will return until long after the pandemic.
Okay, Michelle, with a lot of background noise, I'm going to let Elizabeth answer this. I'm going to take you offline, but I'm going to let Elizabeth answer it. You'll be able to hear her answer, okay? Can you provide that answer, Elizabeth?
Yes, absolutely. So you would qualify for a regular unemployment insurance claim. The thing that you would need to find out is, depending on what your weekly benefit amount is, you may not be eligible for benefits in any given week. This kind of goes back to what Brandon was talking about earlier with those continuing hours with your regular part-time job. If those earnings are greater than your weekly benefit amount, then you would not receive benefits for that week. So you do qualify to file for a claim. Continuation of eligibility is determined on a week-by-week basis, and it's based on what earnings you have to report. Does
Great.
that help answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. Rebecca, I think we're going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. We're a little over time. Certainly had a lot of great questions asked, and we are so sorry that time doesn't allow us to get to every single question, but it does inform our communications and it informs our website content, hearing from you the issues that you have needing to be addressed. Just as a reminder, these town halls are recorded and they're available at coloradoui.gov. So if you missed anything or want to refer back to the slide content, again, that's going to be available at coloradoui.gov. Once again, thank you so much for participating. We are working quickly and have all resources dedicated to helping you get the support you need and the information you need throughout the claims process. Again, check coloradoui.gov for this town hall and future updates and new communications. And with that, please stay healthy and safe, and best wishes, and thank you again for participating.